how and when to assess healthcare, and especially where to get quality healthcare or health products, whatever they may be. And reproductive healthcare, because I have an interest in reproductive healthcare, not just because I'm a woman or women's health, but I also tell people reproductive healthcare is not just about women. Everyone who has a reproductive system is in that umbrella. And I'm really passionate about also about seeing women live their best lives, seeing adolescents. That's why I specialize in women and adolescents live their best lives. Everyone should have access to quality care, regardless of your age, your gender, And so I think that's the bulk of what I do. And this has opened doors to me to collaborate within the healthcare system with the collaboration is with both policy policy makers, everyone, healthcare workers, anyone who holds healthcare in high esteem, who sees healthcare as the important thing it should be. I'm always willing to collaborate. It is also because today we're talking about unleashing potential, right? So in unleashing potentials, one of the things that I always tell people is, firstly, don't start by limiting yourself, because unleashing means, I like to see it as like opening the floodgates of potentials. And one of the ways, I'll start by one of the ways a lot of people fail to do this is by limiting themselves, not being able to I call it unabashed self-exploration. And that's one thing I did for myself. While I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, I mean, my life was not this put together at some point. I have to have it. I also had that confusion as I'm still a young person, but like when I was quite younger in medical school, I wanted to be many things, But importantly, I wanted to help people. I wanted to make people feel better. But there was also always that pressure of where do you want to specialize, and where are you going to niche in medicine? And at some point, I just had to just pick one just so that everybody would be all right. I said, okay, I'll specialize here. But one thing I did for myself was not just to limit myself to that particular, niche, niche myself to that particular specialty that I had chosen for myself. I allowed myself to explore other things, speak to persons who had gone ahead of me. That's another thing, mentorship. So I mentioned unabashed self-exploration. And the self-exploration is not that you're just exploring, without any restrictions or exploring without any plan in mind. Exploring is more like self-development. What are the skills that I will require if I want to go this route? So I started picking up digital skills, communication skills, leadership skills. So I was volunteering. I literally opened myself up to opportunities. And I would say that's one of the things that has really helped me so far in my journey, because in opening myself up to these opportunities, I got to meet people, who were living the life I was looking forward to living, right? I saw people who were in specialties that I was admiring. And at some point, I remember telling someone, while I'm not yet sure where I want to specialize, this was years back, I know where I don't want to specialize. And I remember my mentor saying, that's a good way to start. You don't need to have it all figured out, right? But at least you can be able to strike out, in medicine, we call it ruling out. You can be able to rule out what you didn't want to do. So there were specialties I didn't want to do because I kind of had an idea of the kind of life I wanted for myself. There's some specialties that will not allow me to live the life I wanted. I don't like stress. So I wanted to have a practice that is easy but still fulfilling. Not easy per se, but like allows me the opportunity to do everything else that I want to do. Not like it totally takes my time. And so I had mentorship. And it's been in the journey of mentorship, leadership, that I came up to this point where I even got to have opportunities like the Mandela Washington Fellowship. I knew about, the US Embassy exchange program. If I hadn't gone, volunteered in those places, opened myself up to mentorship, talked with people who had gone ahead of me, who had experienced life, to some certain extent, I would probably not have heard about the opportunities that I know today. I probably not have met the fellows. You know, I remember the first time I met the fellow. That was years back. Was it 2017 or 2016?
Okay,
yeah, 2015, 16. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for the background. Can you hear me?
Yes,
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the background you've given us. Today, as we all know, we are looking at the topic, Unleashing Your Potential, my experience during the Mandela Washington Fellowship. And one of the reasons we are having this conversation today is to help our audience, especially the young ones, to know the opportunities that are available even to them through the US government exchange programs. So as I would like to ask you, reflecting on your journey, how did your personal experiences at the MWF shape what you are doing today?
Okay, if I heard you right, how did my personal experiences in the MWF journey shape my work?
Yes. What you are doing now?
Okay. I would say in many ways it has improved the quality of my work. It has improved the quality of everything I do, honestly. I think one of the things that the MWF journey did for me was it opened my eyes to possibilities. And I was someone who really thought I knew the possibilities. But then it opened my eyes to understand that even within what I was doing, I could do more. And also it removed some level of fear and restriction from me. I will explain. So within the work that I do in reproductive healthcare, I was like quite niched in cervical cancer prevention for my foundation. For Dr. Zobo on social media, I was like everywhere in reproductive healthcare, niched in reproductive healthcare, but everywhere. But then for the foundation, I just was playing it safe within. But this gave me the opportunity to understand that I could pivot. You can always develop, you can always, I'll use the word metamorphose into another level while not leaving what you are doing. So it really took away some fear of starting and failing. I think everybody has that, oh, so what if I do this and I don't do it well? What if I do this and I fail? You know, it helped me understand that it's actually okay to fall. I won't say fail, even if it's fail, but then failure just means you are not standing back. So it's okay to fall, it's okay to stumble, it's okay not to know what you want to do, right? So it's really helped me when I came back. There was a lot more opening. I remember one of the things I did was pivoting into an area, or even adding, not just pivoting, but adding to the work I do in an area that I really was shy about, not like I didn't want to touch it, and that's gender-based violence. Not because there is no need, but I just felt, oh, I don't have the capacity. So it developed my capacity to even seek more. And I remember immediately I came back, I applied for that grant, and I got it I was funded to American University Yola to study GDB course. And it really developed my capacity. I don't think I would have been able to apply for that program. It had always been there. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't gotten that push from the fellowship. So it really allayed my fears, it taught me that it's okay. It's really okay for you not to have it all figured out. And also increased my network. I got to meet people, young people like myself, people who are younger than me, who are doing amazing work. And I understood that amazing work is not about how big it is. It doesn't mean you reach out to 1 billion people or you have 1 billion volunteers. You know, sometimes we think it's about the numbers, but it taught me that impact is not just in numbers. Yes, numbers, of course, quantitative, but also the qualitative part of impact is equally important. So I saw young people who are doing amazing work, who I can collaborate with to expand the work I'm doing. I can partner with to expand the work they are doing. And I learned, it was like a cultural exchange also for me. I learned things, like my mind was open. I think that's one of the things that stands out for me from my fellowship experience. So maybe I talk more as
That's good. Thank you very much. We try as much as possible to make this conversation interactive. Soon we'll be taking questions from our spaces. Some people will have some questions they want to ask you. I want to ask you this question before we go to our audience. If we go back to the time you applied for the fellowship, can you hear me clearly? If we go back to, yes, if we go back to when you applied for the fellowship, what was the experience like when you were applying? What were the things you think they saw in you that made you qualify for the application? I'm asking these questions because we have some youth, some young people that are looking for opportunities like this, and they don't know where to start from. They don't know what documents to get or what they need to do. So I would like you to answer that question.
Thank you very much for that question. Before I proceed, I'd like to establish one thing about my application journey. And that was, I applied at Australia. I got into fellowship of my third application. I started in 2019. Then I think 2020 there was COVID or something. I skipped one COVID year, then I applied two. So I got in my third trial. I just wanted this to be established, so I don't look like somebody that has superpowers, hasn't figured out. So one of the things for my fellowship journey that I would say, you asked what made my application stand out. I can't exactly say what made it stand out, but I will see what I did different from my other applications, right? Firstly, the US application journey has taught me that, I mean, they are out for your success. I'll say that because I'm a medical personnel, and I've written exams, and I've seen what top exams look like. I've seen top applications. But this application is more you-centered. They want to know more about you. They have made it as easy and seamless as possible. And so it's quite clear going through the essay, not just the essays, going through the documentation aspect, everything is clear. So I won't dwell on that. If you have the documents, fine. If you don't, then go get it. Even as at your international passport, there is an allowance to say, if you don't have it now, you can get it. It shows you that they really want to have you on board. So those concessions are there. Now for the essay, the onus lies on you to sell yourself, right? So I'll repeat that again. When it comes to the essays, the onus lies on you. It's your responsibility to tell whoever is reading your essay about you. And I think that is what I didn't do well in my previous essays. In my previous essays, I just felt, well, I'm doing good work now.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, please, we apologize. We apologize. They will soon come on. Ikeja is having a itch. They will soon come on. Just be patient with us. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? I think our network tripped a bit, but I'm back now.
You're welcome back.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah. So I was saying that I brought that personality to my application. I wasn't talking much about myself or the work I was doing. I was being very reserved about it. And I think the very first application, I did not understand the questions. And one thing I didn't do was to seek mentorship. I didn't seek mentorship. I just saw the application and I just applied. And I think I didn't put in work, good work in my first application. The second application, however, I tried my best to watch some videos, speak to one or two people, but I still didn't sell myself well. By the third time, I was like, nah, this is going to be the final time. Sometimes it's not because you are not doing good work. Sometimes it's because you're not selling yourself well, right? So if you're not doing good work, I would say keep developing. So in the process of waiting for whenever I will be chosen, I kept developing. So if you check my essays, you will see there's been progress. I'm not still saying the same thing. And that's another place where people make mistakes. You just feel like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Some people even vomit the same essays they put in last year again. So I just opened myself to learning and kept developing my essays till it would get to the point where someone would sit and say, okay, this person deserves a spot or deserves a chance here. So what I did differently in the essay that got me in was I really sold myself. Like I told them who I really am. I talked about the stress. My application was strong. Let me use that one. I strengthened my application by telling them who I am, what I have done. And I really answered the questions. Like sometimes they're asking you one thing and then you're talking off point. You're saying good stuff, but you're not answering the questions. So I was really direct. And then I also had fellows who had gone ahead, of course, alumni who reviewed my essays, who told me this is not necessary, or you can bring this here. Like I had guidance. So I knew in my heart that this essay just has to work. This particular application is the application. I finished it, and for the first time, I just knew I had applied for the fellowship. So I always tell people, yes, I put in 3 applications, but I applied once. So yeah.
That's very good. That's good. So from what you've explained now, I can deduce about 2 things. First, you need guidance. You need mentorship to be able to have an application that will sail through the interview. Then don't hold back. Say what you are doing. Talk about your work and how your work is impacting others. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's anyone from any of our spaces that have questions for Dr. Conv. If you have questions, you can raise your virtual hand from all our centers so that we can call you all our spaces. So while we wait for questions, I would like to ask you, when you went for the fellowship, what can you say is unique about that fellowship?
Okay.
Okay.
Do I continue? Okay.
You can answer that question. I think we have someone who is raising hand from Kano. Our space. After you answer this question, we take the question from Kano. Thank you. Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay. So, what is unique about the fellowship? I was posted. Let me talk like NYSC. I did my fellowship, my 6 weeks fellowship at the University of Delaware, USA, and I was in the civic engagement track. Yeah. So I would say that the fellowship generally has its benefits, but your experience in the fellowship is going to be determined by the institutes where you are posted. It's like different for different people. And let's not forget there are 3 different tracks. So my track is different. So for the fellowship, what I would say is unique, as I already hinted one, the fellowship has your best interest at heart. You can see it in how responsive they are. it has your best interest at heart. You see it in their responsiveness, in their eagerness to assist you along the way in whatever it is you're doing. I had several questions. There was always a reply, So that's not something you find in certain fellowships or certain application processes. Secondly, the fellowship, in my opinion, is the largest gathering of young African leaders, all in the same. The truth is, a lot of Nigerians and Africans and people will be psyched about the travel part. I love traveling. I love the fact that I was able to experience US culture, but that was not the peak for me, peak experience for me. The peak experience for me was meeting people who looked like me, didn't exactly speak like me, had different experiences, people who were doing the same thing I was doing, but in different ways, in different communities. I was able to interact with people who gave me the answers that I needed without even knowing it. In the work that I'm doing, maybe at some point I have this hiccup or some challenge I've been having, and then in having a conversation with someone, she goes like, oh, so we have this particular thing we do, and this is how we do it to ensure that the women come into the clinics and to ensure retention, to ensure. I'm like, wow, why haven't I thought about this? And the beautiful thing is, because it has worked in one African country, it's replicable in my African country, Nigeria. So it's one platform that brings together over 700. It's not, in fact, 10 people is a crowd, 700 young African people, 25 in your institute for 6 weeks, rubbing minds, sharing experiences. I don't think you can get that anywhere. So that's one unique thing. And then also opening you up to have, to network with US officials, US government officials. In my own experience, we visited, because I'm also in health policy. So I had the privilege of visiting the Delaware State House. I met the Delaware governor, spoke with him, shook hands with him. I went, visited, and we had the opportunity of also speaking at the State House of Assembly there in Delaware. We spoke to the senators. There was interaction. It was not just about the show of it. So that's why I said it's different for each institute. Ours was more, it was interactive and it was focused. We had projects, we had things that we were aiming for. They gave us listening ears. And also, I talked about the responsiveness for persons who had issues, be it health challenges or any kind of challenges. There was always someone who you could talk to, without feeling, will I be heard? Will I be judged? So that for me is an experience. That network is the top for me. That network, even within my Nigerian, we were 57 of us in Nigeria who went. We had the PDE. I met people who I am still collaborating with today. I met people in this fellowship who we have developed organizations together today. We have an organization that is owned by those of us who went to Delaware, together. Something that is also, we're not just doing it alone, we're collaborating with our network in the US. I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. I have people who I can call almost in any country within Africa, and they can help me sort out whatever it is. I have
okay.
For me, cool.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Makama. Time is not our friend. So I would like to take questions from our spaces. Kano, please, can you go first? Please go direct to the question so that we can take other spaces.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please, my question is that my name is Mini Jibrin Umar from Kano. So my question is that I'm a new to American space. I'm really happy to join the programs. It's very nice and fantastic. My question is one to two. One is on this fellowship, and the secondly is concerning this media, that social media advert on WhatsApp or Telegram. So my first question on fellowship, I just want to ask, or I just want to know more about your program concerning this fellowship. How can we here in Kano to make us easy to apply and get an easy way to know that our people be successfully get the chance to be maybe in America or somewhere that the program will host? Because we have only few, only few of our people. I usually join this program. To my mind, just looking at the program. Most of this now, there's no, like maybe Hausa people, they are not much.
Okay, we got your question, sir. How to know about the fellowship?
Okay.
Dr. Wakama.
Okay. So thank you so much for your question. It's a very helpful one. I'm sure it will help a lot of people here. So I'm going to talk in two ways, as an alumni and also as the publicity secretary of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Association of Nigeria, Alumni Association of Nigeria. So for publicity's sake, I mentioned earlier, I don't know when you joined, that one of the things that helped me was getting into those networks where these things were discussed. But in recent times, the truth is there are networks, there are sites that you can actually visit to learn about not just the fellowship and other opportunities that apply to you. There are opportunity websites. I'm not here to do any adverts, but then there are opportunity websites. Some of them are even owned by some of our fellows. The way you can find out. Another place you can find out is the US platforms. So there are platforms that talk about exchange programs, social media accounts, the US and Nigeria social media accounts. American Con, I'm sure American Con also advertises when it's time. So whenever it's time, application is usually between September, ending of August, September. Last year's application window closed 12th of September. So always open up your ears around August, September. That's when this application happens. So I think that's more direct. So that's that. About how to apply and have guidance. I think that's what you're talking about, to know that, how do I put in a good application and all that. For the fellowship, the alumni body, Mandela Washington Fellowship, MFAN, alumni body, we always host practice sessions. We always host sessions to help people who want to apply or who are applying for the fellowship at any given time. Last year, during this 2024 application season, we had webinars where we not only explained what the fellowship is about, we helped people break down the essay questions, give you tips on how to put in a good application. And then we also did some mock review sessions for people. People were assigned mentors within the fellowship alumni body who helped them through the application process. So I think another thing you can do is follow MFAN, that's MWFAAN Nigeria. That's our alumni body. You can follow us across, we are MWFAN Nigeria platform. Check out MWF itself. Mandela Washington, that's Watch Fellowship on Twitter, and they always share tips on the website. Visit the website, binge on the website, right? Binge, like sleep on that website. I did it, we did it. Sleep on the website. You will get tips. You will get experience. I think that pretty much answers your questions. And you mentioned something about the Northerners not having access to it. I think that's changing because we had Northerners in my own cohorts. I don't know about previous cohorts, but I always know that there is always inclusion. There is inclusion in this process. Everybody is considered. Even people with disabilities are considered. There is no, even pregnant women, moms. I had a baby. I just had a baby. So they are not excluding you because, you are pregnant or you just had a baby. No, if you get into the fellowship, and there were some people who got in a year before I did, but because they were just close to delivery or just had their baby, they deferred. They wrote, that's why I told you they actually have your best interest at heart. They wrote to the US Embassy and explained their situation. And, they helped them defer their fellowship to the next year. So I'm saying that this is a process where they want you to succeed. So you just put in the best application you can. And I'm rooting for.
Okay, thank you. Some of our audience wants the website for the fellowship.
Okay, the website.
Yes, I mean
Mandela
for your alumni.
Okay, for the alum,
MWF. Yes.
mwfaan.org. That's our website. But then we're active on all social media platforms. MWFAAN Nigeria. MFAN Nigeria.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, let me tell him, you can also visit the US Embassy Nigeria website, ng.usembassy.gov. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, fb.me/American Spaces NG. All right, I go to Calabar. Calabar, please unmute and ask your question.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Uket Friday, and I am the state coordinator for Yearly Network Cross River Hub. So speaking from experience over the years, especially last year, we've organized a application guide session for most of our members, on to learn and practice how to apply for Mandela Washington Fellowship when the application came out. And I think just recently, someone from Obudu, not even based in Calabar, we're happy to hear that he scaled through to the semi-final stage. But then, surprisingly, most of us who applied, even after the guide session, couldn't scale through. So my question now is, how do you know that your application is strong? How do you? Because from my previous experience, I'm beginning to think that it is based on how strong and how well you are able to tell your story. So I would like to have a clarification on that. Thank you.
Okay. How do you know your application is strong? Firstly, kudos on good work you're doing, and congratulations to the latest semi-finalist, rooting for her or him. So, how do you know you have a strong application? Honestly, it varies. As I said, you could put in a strong application, or what you think is a strong application, and you're still not selected. Not because you didn't put in a strong application or the work you're doing is not good or relevant, but because understand as you're putting in a strong application, others are also putting in strong applications or even stronger applications. So it doesn't mean you're not doing good work. And sometimes I believe, I won't just speak only for the fellowship. Sometimes in selections, every year, I think there might be a focus that they have more interests in. I'm not speaking for MWF right now. This is me speaking, and also from my experience in different levels of applications, not just MWF. I think sometimes they could want to take in focus on a particular area more than the other. And let me give an instance. This is just an instance, please. Let's say maybe this year they say, okay, we want to take maybe 10 people who are doing, or this percentage of people who are focusing on adolescent health, because this institute or this particular institutes are more focused on that, because it also depends on the institutes, right? Like for my institute, we had more people who were health inclined. And we had arts. So it's a health and arts kind of state. So we had health And then we had arts like music, writing, you know, those people painting. We had those kind of people in my institute. We had healthcare people. We had tech ed, education tech. So I think maybe it could be that they are trying to focus based on they want to give the institute the fellows who can actually make the best of the experience within that institute. So when you don't get selected, just keep applying, because the next time you apply, it could be the work you're doing that is the focus for the year. That's why I always tell people, it's not just about putting a strong application. How do you know it is strong? How you know it is strong is that you know the work you are doing. You know the impact you've made. If you've been able to communicate that clearly to whoever is coming across your application, that's a good application, right? It's a strong application. It's strong application doesn't mean you have done everything in the world. It's that you're able to demonstrate your impact, show them the work you're doing, the potential, and also, I've stressed this a lot, answer the questions well. A lot of people answer what they think is a question. They don't answer the question. And then you miss out. Sometimes you're telling a story because we say storytelling. You now be telling story, and you miss out on things. And also remember that it's not, they are investing in you. At the end of the day, they want to see that they are investing in someone who can also be able to give back to the fellowship, who can also be able to give back to the people, the other fellows. You know, you can contribute well to the fellows. You can contribute to the quality of this whole fellowship program. And the US also, the US wants to learn from you. You are not just going there to take. You find out that you're also going to be teaching. You're also going to be sharing experiences. So you don't just want to look selfish. You don't want to look like, oh, this is what I'm doing, or this is how you should help me. What's the need for you, US? Like when I come to the US or when I'm in this fellowship, how can they know that, oh, this person is around, this person is adding some, improving the quality of this particular organization? So that's what I would say. And there are some essays actually that. So just get mentorship, you would know.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Chioma. Time is not our friend at all today, and we are having such a great time. Lastly, I would like to take Oshobo in 1 minute. Oshobo, ask your question, direct your question. Then Dr. Chioma, you help us to answer it in 1 minute. Our time is fast spent. Oshobo, please unmute and ask your question.
My name is Oladure Fakola. Now we've heard that there is a world difference between result and impact. Now, when your profession collaborates with your potential, you open way to prosperity. But when the wrong contract, it is to poverty. Now I want to ask, how has the fellowship assisted your profession to collaborate with your potentials?
Okay, how has this fellowship...
Oshobo actually asked my last question. Go ahead, Dr. Chioma.
That was a good one.
Okay, so if I got you correctly, I'm going to paraphrase. It's more like, how has the fellowship helped the work I'm doing? That helps me to reach my potential or grow or develop. I started it out at the beginning. I don't know when you joined, sir. Thank you so much for that question. I said clearly, I'll just be direct. The fellowship has increased my capacity. A lot of capacity development was done. The program is structured in such a way that you are having class lessons. It's more like a university course. So you're having class lessons in topics that you might not have even had the opportunity at this point in your life to have access to. I have access to resources just because I am a fellow. I have access to resources that I would ordinarily might have subscribed in dollars for. I have access to those resources. So it's the capacity development. I've increased in my ability, to constructively implement, to be productive and more productive, because I have confidence, because I found out that most of the fear I was having before the fellowship, most of the imposter syndrome, was because I felt I wasn't good enough. It wasn't just because I wasn't good enough. It's now I know it's because I didn't have capacity. And I don't like to dabble in areas that I'm not well versed in, but my capacity grew, my network grew. And I still have those relationships And so even in terms of funding, we had people in the fellowship who had, who got into partnerships with big companies, who got funding, depending, we had the business civic and all. Even within my own institute, we had competitions, pitch competitions. I became better at pitching. I think that's another thing that happened for me. I knew how to talk, but now I understood how to pitch. Because in every networking, you are pitching your work, you're pitching yourself every day. So it became like, wake me up from sleep, I'll tell you in a minute. So that capacity grew. So it's still unfolding. It's not something that has a full stop, it's still unfolding. So capacity development, networking, and access to funding, access to opportunities, they are still happening every day just because I'm a fellow.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chioma. Dr. Chioma is on YouTube. I don't know whether you like to share your handle for people that wants to follow your work. Please just share in 3 seconds.
Okay, I'm at Dr. Zobo across all social media platforms at DRZO. And on YouTube is at Dr. Zobo Live, LIVE. But on social media, Twitter, every other place is at Dr. Zobo. Instagram, everywhere. Facebook, Dr. Zobo.
Okay. Thank you so much for the insights, the deep insights you have given us on how to unleash your potential. We are very grateful for your time, for taking our time to come to our space today. Thank you for the work that you are also doing to improve the lives of women and adolescent girls in Nigeria. We wish you all the best. And we know in the near future, when we invite you, we always have the pleasure of having you. Please, let's give Dr. Chioma a round of applause from all our spaces. We also like to thank everyone for joining in to the program this morning. We also want to announce that if you miss any part of this broadcast, you can watch live on our Facebook page. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Bye for now.